it happened this week. Like, after years of fighting it, like, it finally happened where I switched from Team Kanye to Team Taylor. And
Isn't
I
it
have
weird
President
that you
Trump to
feel
thank
weird?
for that.
Yeah, yeah. Someone on Twitter was like, peop- was like, someone should start a support group for the people who are on the wrong side of that Kanye Taylor Swift argument. And it's funny to me because I've always been able to separate the two, but it is weird to look back and be like, can you imagine the year is 2007? Kanye does this thing with Taylor Swift, and we are all like, wow, that was just a moment. Who would have known that that would turn into a decade-long, like,
A
just like,
decade-long just shit show.
yeah, it's crazy. It was literally the beginning of something that we just could not have predicted. And I would have never, I thought that moment was interesting. I remember where I was when that happened, but I just did not think it would be so relevant.
When the spawn meets world, spawn meets world. When the spawn meets world.
What up, bros?
What up, bros?
And welcome to Bruh Meets World.
When it's Bro Meets World.
Your Boy Meets World fan cast. Welcome to episode 39. I'm Siege.
And I'm your boy, TC.
Tony Thick, Kurt.
Heyo.
It's been a while since it's been just you and I.
You know what? I was thinking that, and I was like, because there's one episode, and I think it's actually the next episode. I was like, oh, that would be a good episode to just do the two of us because it's about the boys running a radio station. But it ended up that we were on this episode instead, which, again, I don't know how I feel about this episode.
Here's the thing. I think that we get some things to discuss and we get some things that are relevant, but overall it's not like it's a memorable episode because you and I both remember it, but it's not the best episode.
Yeah, and I think what I remembered from it was just this whole idea of like a cool roller coaster, but that's a
Yeah.
very small part of the story.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And I
But
think as
also,
a kid, that was just the thing that caught my attention.
I'm not gonna lie that I did like this dynamic of what they're doing with Eric and Cory. Like, addressing the fact that they're now getting to a similar age. They're both interested in girls. This weird dynamic of Cory and Shawn kind of being in different, not different circles, but different types or different casts. You know what I mean?
I would
And then
actually say that what we're seeing is their lives becoming closer together, like merging. This
yeah, no,
merging of
that's
instead
what I'm
of them
saying.
having their separate friends and groups now we're starting to see them kind of collide a little bit more.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think that I really like that we explored this because they didn't have to do this. They could have very easily kept it to where it's like Shawn and Cory have their adventure, and and Eric has his adventures with his girlfriend. But they were like, we're gonna have to start merging these, and instead of just making it merge without acknowledging it, why don't we have an episode that actually is like, oh hey, everyone's dating, and Shawn is clearly the pick that a girl would choose. But what does that mean in this dynamic for the boys?
And have we had a Eric Shawn story yet?
I don't think so. I don't think we really have.
Yeah, I know that from just watching interviews and kind of behind the scenes stuff of the show that at a certain point Eric and Shawn were not allowed to have scenes together because Ryder
Yeah.
and Will would just make each other laugh the entire time. So
It's one of my favorite fun facts about the show that
yeah,
like
and I
they
always
literally
look out
couldn't
for
put them in the room together. Yeah.
it. But yeah, let's go into the tell me about it because I want to get into these girls from New York a little bit.
All right, so let's do the tell me about it, as you said.
Tell me about it. Tell me everyone in the show.
Eric's new makeout buddy, Kim, has a younger cousin coming into town, and Eric offers to double date with him and Cory. But after Cory makes a childish first impression, Kim suggests Shawn. At first, Eric puts up a fight, but Kim persuades him to ask Shawn, and Cory stumbles across the double date and is insulted that Eric didn't fight harder for him. But Eric says Kim was looking for someone a little more dangerous for her cousin, and Cory is safe like lime jello. Meanwhile, at a faculty meeting, Feeny is also bothered by the assumptions that he too is boring and unadventurous. Cory and Feeny decide to set out and prove they too can behave recklessly by riding the most dangerous roller coaster in town. In a B plot, Alan chastises Amy for spending money on an expensive haircut, but ends up losing twice as much money in a poker game.
So
Yeah.
that okay, all right. Where do you want to start?
I know, right? All right, so let's start with the A plot because I actually really, we said this earlier, and I like that we were exploring this territory with Eric, Shawn, and Cory. I felt like it was really good, and then also I have to say right off the bat, Eric did fight for Cory. He like insisted. He was like,
100%. Like
"This is my blood. I'm sorry." And then after a while, like I remember when Kim like hops on him and is just like making out with him, I was like, "This is a teenage boy." I'm sorry. I'm on Eric's side. He did what he could.
I think the only thing Eric did wrong was that he didn't go to Cory and be like, "Hey, this is what's going on. She thinks she wants to go out with Shawn. Is this okay?" Like talk to him.
Exactly.
Or maybe not even say this is okay, but I just wanted you to know that this is what happened and I did fight for you. The fact that he was like, "Shawn, of course I would go to Cory first." Like that's where the fuck up happened. But other than that, you're 100% right. He fought for him as hard as anyone would have.
Shawn? No, Cory's my brother. I don't want to dump my little brother.
Because I think my cousin would have a good time with Shawn. And if my cousin has a good time, we could have a good time.
Yeah, he fought for him as hard as anyone would have. And then Kim was kind of like, I don't want to say manipulative, but Kim was definitely the one who was refusing to continue to entertain Cory. And understandably, because Cory did come in, and it was just like, it was one of those moments where you're like, dude, you don't even know how you're fucking this up for yourself.
Well, Shawn also was flirty as fuck with Kim.
Oh, Shawn was smooth. This is the thing.
He was so smooth.
Shawn, it is clear that Shawn is like a prodigy when it comes to flirting with girls. He knows how to work it, and I applaud him for it. Because it's a skill.
I didn't really want to drink. I just heard Eric was down here with an unbelievably gorgeous girl. And I gotta say, as I stand here with my own eyes, it was worth the trip. Thank you.
Can we, I know we just kind of jumped into this, but can we do the roll call just because I do want to talk about Kim and her cousin?
All right, roll call. Let's talk about Kim. Starting off with Kim.
So Kim is the new girlfriend of Eric. We've never met her before. But
Correct.
Did you recognize her from anything?
I didn't, not at all.
Okay, so, and maybe this is just dating myself. Back when I was a child, I used to watch Nickelodeon all the time, and Nickelodeon had a show called Salute Your Shorts. It was about kids at a summer camp.
Yeah, of course, Salute Your Shorts.
There was one brunette girl on there who I had the biggest crush on. I thought she was so cute. Come to find out, she's making out with Eric Matthews on the show now.
Ah.
So she was, I believe that's the biggest credit to her name is Salute Your Shorts. But the funny link between that is that Joey the Rat also was on Salute Your Shorts. So there's that connection there, and I believe he may have actually dated Kim's character on that show. So yeah, just a funny little cross between Salute Your Shorts and Boy Meets World.
Well, it's also really weird that he wasn't in this episode.
Not at all.
I know, right? They don't even do like a slight little crossover. I mean, but to be fair, it's not necessary.
No, I mean, and you have to also understand too that like kid shows in the 90s, especially like this was before I think conglomerates realize how much money they can make off of kids,
Yeah.
because TV shows for kids got no attention whatsoever. Like, there was people who probably would have been massive stars, or grown to be massive stars, if social media had been around at that point. But just the most talented kids that were just kind of being underlooked because they were on these inferior, what they thought to be inferior kid shows. And I think the
Yeah.
fact that, like, I mean, Kenan Thompson's on his 16th episode of a season of SNL, so clearly there's talent that was there, and very few people actually made it out. But yeah, I think that they both did a really great job on that show.
Yeah, I was recently watching the '90s documentary that
On
CNN put out.
Netflix,
Yeah, on
so
Netflix.
good.
And yeah, they talk about how 90210 was kind of the first time that teen lives were taken seriously. You know, it's like they had
Well,
always had,
on
yeah,
television, because you have to kind of
on
give it to
television.
John Hughes for movies in the '80s.
Well, yeah, but on television.
Yeah,
Very good point. And it is funny to consider all of these, like even I sent you that link to the Boy Meets World panel, and they talked about how like their show was nothing at the time. Like
yeah.
it was able to stay on, but no one cared who they were, and
Yeah,
yet it
I
was
mean,
such
it was
so
Will and Ryder
impactful.
said that they were at a coffee shop, like in the fifth or sixth season, and people weren't recognizing them at that point.
Exactly. And yet it was so impactful to everyone our age. Like, and I think that that is amazing that they were so iconic to our generation, but as far as their day to day, no one recognized their talent. And that's crazy. It took our generation growing up to be like, hey, those people who were in this show were actually really talented and were really doing something.
And I also think that as we grow up, we can kind of distinguish the difference between, like, actual talent and talent that's maybe just kind of smoke and mirrors, which I don't want to sound like an old curmudgeon, but now I see a lot of Disney shows, and I see a lot of kids just acting like they're on a Disney show versus actually acting. And I felt like these kids are just so relatable and raw and real, and I feel like there's something that we long for in our generation of that authenticity that came from their
Authenticity.
performances.
Correct. Correct. All right. So, that being said, let's talk about Kim's cousin Laura, who is
Yes.
played by Mina Servari.
Yep. For people might recognize her from American Pie. She was also in American Beauty. She's American, so
Yeah, she's one of the actresses of the '90s that you do recognize. I don't know if she was in everything, but she was definitely one of those actresses that. I mean, I equate her with Thora Birch, and not just because they were both in American Beauty, but because they were both in that like they were like with her and Christina Ricci, and like they were just
they
like
were in
the
that
it girls.
graduating class. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you know what? My relationship with her mostly comes from the American Pie movies, I would say. Not that those
Ah,
age well at all, but as a
of course
kid,
they don't.
um, and I also think she had a few other, like, shitty movies that kind of got lost in all those teen releases that came around '99 or so.
Yeah, have you ever seen? I think we've talked about this before, and it's just one of my favorite movies, Sugar and Spice.
I have not seen Sugar and Spice.
Oh my God, you have to watch Sugar and Spice. It's not a good movie, but it's a great like late '90s, early 2000 movie, and you will like it. I promise you.
I don't know. I've seen some pretty bad late '90s teen movies before, but
But that's what
yeah.
I'm
I
saying.
mean, I'll definitely give it a shot.
This is like middle of the road because the premise is actually really good. It has James Marsden as one of the male leads, and it's it has a really good cast. It's just it it also wasn't like a good movie. Like I don't know how to say it other than it's better than Dude Where's My Car, but it's not exactly
I
uh,
see.
American Pie or anything like that.
She was also in that movie. I don't know if you remember that movie Loser.
No, I don't.
Okay, all right, never mind. It had Jason Biggs in it as well. I mean, this is just all right. Let's move on.
All right, so we did Kim and we did Laura. Do you have anything about Laura that you wanted to say?
Other than just the fact that she is, the probably the most famous of all of the alumni of that episode, from the, I mean, of the,
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
cameos. Um, but we have more.
Yeah. Oh no, I was going to Dottie or Dot from the Teachers Lounge.
Who I know as Mimi from the Drew Carey show.
Exactly. That's what I was like. The moment I saw her, I was like, Mimi.
Yeah. I don't really know her outside of the Drew Carey show, which is so funny because I completely forget that Drew Carey even had a show sometimes. Um, but I used to watch it on the reg, I think. It was one of those like syndication sitcoms you'd watch before dinner
Yeah.
things. And yeah, Mimi was on, and she was, I think, trying to get some from Jonathan. So, and I
Yeah,
think
she
Jonathan
was.
Jonathan was there for it too.
Yeah. Oh, well, here's the thing. I feel that Jonathan was very much someone who understood that he was like the hottest staff member, and it's just like used to being hit on by the female faculty. So I think that he plays into it a little bit. He wasn't gonna give it to me, but he was like, "I get it. I see you, girl."
Yeah. I don't
All
know.
right.
I kind
So
of read it as if I I kind of read it as if Jonathan was down the clown. But that's
I
just
mean,
me.
here's
In
the thing.
my mind, Jonathan
Let's
is
not
down the clown with everyone.
I would say let's not limit Jonathan. I mean, if he wants to pass it around, let him pass it around.
Yeah, because I feel like he's just making his way through the female faculty.
And I am
Um,
here for it. You know what? This is a bit early, but we're gonna do Turned On by Turner because Jonathan
all
this
right,
episode. We get
let's
a
start it
lot.
off with it. Come on.
Yeah, we get a lot of Jonathan, and so the first outfit that he has, I was like, what is this? When he's in there, like, go back and look at it. He is wearing cowboy boots with loose fitting chinos and a
A
big white
ridiculous guy
shirt
again.
and a ridiculously red tie. I was like, who put your costume together? This makes no sense. It makes no sense. Like his
Yeah, and they're
entire
giving Feeny
wardrobe.
a hard time about his outfit, but I was like, Jonathan, I don't think you can really talk about it right now. I don't think you're in the
He's
position
wearing
to be making fun of
cowboy
Feeny's
boots.
outfits.
What made you think that this outfit needed cowboy boots? So but when he pops in the second time, the moment he pops in into George's class and he's like, hey, the ski trip was thinking about you and maybe you would like to join us. I was like, this is the Turner I'm here for. Those tight jeans, that nice denim shirt, and then when later on he brought out that leather jacket, I was like, Turner. I am turned
Turner.
on.
Turned on by Turner. Ooh.
Okay. So back to the episode. Anything else you wanted to say about the roll call?
Just that we see Chubby again, but it doesn't seem like it's the
It's a
same
different
actor.
Chubby.
Yeah, it's a different Chubby.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Also,
that was one of the things I was just going to comment on. It was like a different Chubby.
well, also too, Alan says, oh, Amy later implies in the episode that Gordy called, and neither of the men who were playing poker at the end of the episode, none of them looked at all the same as Alan's friends from the previous episodes where Gordy was. So I don't know if
Nope.
Gordy wasn't there at that poker game or if the different actor is playing Gordy, but Alan's friend Gordy is often mentioned but rarely seen.
Yeah, exactly. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. I do like that scene, but the last roll call person I'm gonna bring up is Elvis.
What the hell was Elvis doing in this
Yeah,
episode?
that's what I was thinking. I was like, what is this? This feels like Jump the Sharkish. Like it's so weird. It was so random.
Yeah, and like it was one thing of like, oh, okay, maybe Chubby was like, there's an Elvis impersonator here, but like,
Yeah,
no,
they
they
were
played it
implying
up
it
as if
really
it
is
was
Elvis.
actually Elvis who carried millions of dollars that he could hand to Alan in cash.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't know what this is. This is very TGIF. We're not trying to live in like reality here, and it's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of little gags in this episode. That's the thing. It seemed like it was more of a like some of the episodes Boy Meets World does is to really teach a lesson. Some of it's to have a really emotionally charged moment. This just seemed like one for tits and giggles. Like this was just
Yeah,
laughs, I think.
yeah.
Um,
That's what I said. I was like, I
yeah.
wrote in my notes. I was like, uh, fun sight gags. Like the whole roller coaster thing to me was a fun sight gag experience. It wasn't necessarily like held in reality in any way.
Yeah, and I mean, there's little jokes here and there. Shawn saying, "Oh, she's from New York, you know, the Windy City." Just a lot of jokes, like,
Well, I was like, I liked the jokes this episode because I really liked. Let's start off. I liked in my notes I have when Eric is like, "Corey's my blood. I gotta stick with blood."
No, Corey's my brother. Corey's my blood. Shawn has blood.
It's just like I liked that whole turn. I thought it was really really funny. And then later on with Eric and Shawn, when Eric was like, "Well, what does she look like?" He's like, "I'm paying." He's like, "Oh, that's exactly what I like. Where are we going? I'm paying." Oh, you know what? Again, I love
and we know
it.
for a fact that's exactly what Shawn looked for in the girl. He said
Yeah,
it in his
exactly.
interview. He was like, "If she's paying, it's good." Like
Great
paying is a big
callback.
thing for
Great
Shawn.
callback.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it comes up multiple times. So I mean, I definitely see that being a reality. I guess my thing was just like, so Kim, she wants Shawn as the date for her cousin. I don't know. Like she's like, well, if they have a good time, then we can have a good time. Is she trying to get her cousin to hook up with Shawn?
Yeah, of course. She's being a great wingman or wing woman.
Yeah, I
I
guess.
don't
I
fault her at
guess.
all. I don't fault her at all. I mean, honestly, like in her own shoes, like if I was in her shoes, I agree. Shawn's the better choice. I mean, let's just be honest. Ryder Strong has way more of a fan base in terms of teen girls than Corey does, and we're going on first impressions here. And to be fair, Corey did come into the living room spouting water onto their hard floors and made me be like, boy.
I guess that's my problem with this episode. I'm having a hard time caring about it because Eric didn't do anything wrong. She didn't do it. Like Kim didn't do anything wrong. Like we get why she wants Shawn to date her cousin, and like even Feeny, like they keep saying that he's like, I don't want people assuming I'm that way. But at the end of the episode, he's like, you know what? I don't even care. Like I don't know. It just seemed like there was nothing really to sink your teeth into at this episode. All the problems seemed so small.
Well, I disagree with you on that. I'm going to say that I thought that one of the things that this episode did well was you're right. There weren't any, no one did anything wrong. And Corey even says that. Corey's like, no one did anything wrong. It's about perception. And
But, Shawn, it's not your fault because you probably just figured that Eric asked me first. That's it, too. So you're not mad at me?
No,
So you're mad at Eric?
no, I'm not mad at anybody. See, everyone did exactly what they're supposed to do. I mean, you guys went out with cool girls from New York, and I stayed at home and played Candyland with my sister. And lost. That's who I am, Shawn. I'm a Candyland loser.
it's about ego and it's um, about basically what other people think and how it affects you. And that's true in all three male characters. That holds true for Corey, that holds true for Feeny, and that holds true for Alan. Because Alan's even persuaded. He's, oh, they called me names, and it's all an ego thing. And Corey feels he's angry that Eric didn't choose him, but he also understands that uh, his behavior was in fact childish as a first impression, and he's like, oh well, I need to change some things. And then same thing with Feeny. Feeny's like, you guys think because I wear sweater vests that I'm not dangerous, and they're like, well, aren't you not dangerous? Like even when he's like, oh, people think that I'm stodgy and conservative. Corey goes, aren't you? And that's the point. It's all about ego, and I think that they put those breadcrumbs in there, and it really is worth examining. I just don't think it's as well done as Boy Meets World can do.
There's a part at the end of the roller coaster sequence where Eric is helping Cory out of the roller coaster, and he says, "I can't believe you did this all because of me." And they just kind of have that moment where Cory and Feeny are like, "Yeah, we did do this simply because we wanted to try to prove something to them." How proud do you feel like they are of their decisions at that point? Do you feel like they made their point and they're like happy about it, or do you feel like they're kind of bummed out? I had a hard time reading how we're supposed to perceive how they feel
I
about that
think
moment.
I think that they see it as a win, but I agree with you that as an observer, I'm like, but did you? You know what I mean? It's like, is this really a win if you ultimately did put your life in danger because of the opinion of your brother and a fellow faculty member?
I just wasn't sure how we were supposed to interpret that as an audience. I think was kind of my big thing. Even though it does seem as though that is the learn of the episode, the lesson that they learn is, should we have done this to impress them? Are we trying to portray a self that isn't who we actually are, but who we want to be? Because that's kind of the question I feel like we're left asking at the end of the episode.
Well, I mean, I think Feeny
Who
does
I
say
want to
it
be
well when
versus who
Feeny.
I'm perceived by.
Exactly. I think that Feeny, like the lesson here is Feeny's like, hey, if you only behave in the way that people expect you to behave, or you take their expectations as gospel, then you're limiting yourself. Do what you want to do, and prove them wrong. And I think if you take that stance, then what they did was for themselves, and they're accurate. However, the episode by them leaving the episode comes off as if they needed to prove it to Jonathan and Eric. And I think had they not left the note, of course it wouldn't have been as funny and it wouldn't have made as much sense. But had they not left the note, it would have rang more true that these guys were doing it for them.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, did you notice that like there's this really funny bit before Cory and Feeny get into the roller coaster where they're like, "Hey, you have to sign this waiver. It asks for an organ donation." Like they're really trying to hype up how dangerous this thing is.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
sign this waiver and they get in, and then Eric and Jonathan are helping them out of the roller coaster, and Feeny and Cory push them in and send them off. These men have not signed a waiver of any
But
kind.
I love that you said that because that's you and me. I wrote also that Eric and Turner did not sign the waiver. So technically, if anything were to go wrong, they could still sue.
Yeah, because they apparently went through all kinds of preparations as Cory and Feeny were being interviewed. There's people running around, people checking stuff out, people checking, like, no one even looked bat an eye. They just threw Jonathan in and was like, what does Feeny say? Let's fire this rocket or something like that. And they're
Yeah,
off.
let's light this candle. Let's light this
Yo,
candle.
when Feeny and Cory came back and they were in opposite seats, that was hilarious.
Again, I laughed during this episode. I will say that it was a weird episode, but I did laugh. I laughed at the little bit, and I definitely laughed at Cory and Feeny switching places and coming back. And then also when Cory's like, cake. He's like, what? Piece of cake. I threw up a piece of cake. It's just like, it was fun. It was like that bit.
I was going to ask, have we seen a Jonathan and Eric interaction before?
Nah, I don't. Oh, yeah. When we first are introduced to Turner, uh, is
Oh, at the Harley
defending
fight at the
Cory.
end at the
Yeah,
Odyssey episode,
correct,
right? Yeah.
correct.
But
That's
yeah,
the
this was
one time we see them, but not since.
yeah, it doesn't seem like Jonathan is Eric's teacher at all.
No, he's
Even
not.
though he recognized him, but yeah, I don't think they have classes together.
Yeah, I agree.
Can we talk about this Amy and Alan storyline a little bit?
Yes, let's talk about it. It's so. Here's the thing. First of all, Amy got herself a weave. I was like, come
Yeah,
on,
I
weave,
wrote that too.
Amy.
She got a weave. But what's
I was
interesting,
like, okay, weave.
and maybe like a lot of our younger listeners may not remember this, but there was a time where like if you got a weave, you weren't talking about it. Like it was like you kept that thing to like it was embarrassing to find out you had a weave. Like it was one of those things where people really kept it to themselves. Amy's bragging about her weave, and maybe that's white privilege. I don't know, but
I was
I
gonna say,
it may
you're talking about minorities because weaves and minority was seen as like ghetto and all this other stuff. I feel like this was one of those things where weave was just entering the white culture, and they were like, "Ooh, I got hair extensions," and it was starting to be like trendy, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because to me, and I mean, this is what I thought as a child, and I still believe it to be true, is that colored people get weaves, white people get extensions.
I mean, like, I don't really know the difference, so I can't
I
say, but
don't
I
know
would
the difference, but
definitely
I'm
say
saying
that.
that's how I've always interpreted it in my head.
Yeah, no, no. I mean, I remember when Jessica Simpson came out with a line of hair extensions, and it was seen as like this cool thing. But like again, just a few years earlier, if a black girl had a weave, it was like, of course she does. She's ghetto and like all this other stuff. So yeah, of course, there's white privilege even in that. So, but I mean, to go back to the episode, I was really happy for Amy, and girl got that weave for $130. Come on.
Yeah, weaves are expensive. She actually, I mean, to be honest, I don't know what the inflation situation is, but that's not a bad price. I will say to Alan's
I
credit,
mean, it looks natural and
I
everything.
had no idea she had a haircut. No idea. If I
Yeah,
saw
I
her, I
agree.
would have never thought that. And that's the thing is that
I
like
agree.
she got hair extensions, but her hair wasn't longer.
Yeah, I mean, like, I honestly, I don't even know if that is true. I don't know if it's like actually true, but for the sake of the story, I was like, girl, you got yourself a weave. It only cost you $130, and it looks natural. So good for you. But you were saying for Alan?
Oh, but okay, just for Alan's perspective, I couldn't tell the difference. I sympathized with him, but I also didn't feel like it was that big of a conflict yet. It wasn't until I don't know. And I hate to keep talking about their finances, but
Yeah.
they seem to be doing a lot better this season than last season because I remember when Corey wanted a water gun that was like $50 and they were like, that is way too expensive. We can't do it. You see me under the sink fixing this like sink after work, right? Like Alan's constantly working. Now he blew almost $500 in a week. And that's the thing. It's like obviously that may not seem like a lot of money for a weave, but for the family from the first season, that seems like a lot of money to spend on a haircut. And $300 for sure seems like a lot of money to lose at a poker game
That
now
is
and then.
$500. That is
Yeah.
$500.
So they essentially blew the equivalent, today's equivalent of like 700 something dollars in a weekend. And they were
Yeah.
like hugging and kissing and laughing about it afterwards. So I'm just saying that financially, they're doing much better, it seems. And maybe it has to do with Amy getting a job at the gallery. Maybe real estate was really holding them back.
Maybe. But then also, I mean, I always remember that we talked about this last week where we were like, how do you do this? They do have three kids, and two of those kids are teenagers now. So I imagine that their food bill is going through the roof. And then they also feed
No, and
Shawn.
you better include
Um,
Shawn on that food bill.
yeah, I was gonna say, and then they also include Shawn. So there's all of that. But then additionally, I am on Amy's side because Amy is like, what do you have to show for your $300 spend? Mine, at least, I have something to show for it. Yeah, it was a $130 spend, but I have hair extensions. This is gonna last me for a while. These aren't going anywhere. It's not like I'm gonna just do it again next week. You play this poker game regularly, and it cost us $300 this time.
I don't know. I feel like Alan, I $300 for a poker game. That should have been a bit of a bigger deal than it was. They really laughed it off, and I don't know. I I don't know if how they handled the financial aspects of that situation was realistic, and because it really just ends with them just being like, aha, laughing, laughing, come and kiss me. We both fucked up with money, ha ha ha. But I was just like, I feel like if finances were really as tight as it seems to be for this family, or it did seem to be, this would be a bigger discussion about responsibility. Because Alan goes from that conversation to playing poker in the epilogue scene. Again, you just
Yeah,
lost five
I
hundred
think
dollars.
that. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I think for Amy, it was more of a win just to prove, because Alan did come in high and mighty and was like, "How could you like? I spent $20 on a haircut, and I get to read a Playboy. You spent $130, and I could barely tell a difference." Whereas um, with the poker game for Amy, and that's one of the things that I kind of want to talk about is this kind of way of arguing and choosing when to argue and when not to. For Amy, it was way more of a win to just prove to Alan that he too wastes money, and
Well, or that she didn't
so
waste money and he did.
or that she didn't waste money and he did. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like he came in and he was not angry, but he was chastising her for her haircut, and then what he thought was a luxury good, and then she's like, excuse you, let's talk about the way that you spend the money.
It was strange that he brought up the Playboy thing, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's strange in today's world. I thinking back on the '90s, it was very much more common for men to be like, oh yeah, I look at other women, I watch my version of porn, and it's fine. Like, I mean, how many TV shows talk about playboys being in the bathroom or something like that? It's common
I think
practice.
the idea of getting my hair cut while looking at a Playboy surrounded by other men also doing that is the strangest haircut environment I've ever heard of. Just being like, I'm gonna
So
look
I'm not,
at full
I'm not gonna
frontal while
lie.
getting
I
my hair
mean,
cut.
I find it weird and it's unusual, but I remember I went to a barbershop in New York and yeah, they had Playboys just on the table. And by the way, kids get their haircuts here. They're like just on the table, and I was like, okay. I mean, I guess this is a thing. So,
I mean, I guess they do have good articles.
all
Uh,
right. So I mean, I kind of want to like. Is there anything else you want to say about this? Because I kind of want to close it out.
yeah.
Did you have a bruh moment or anything like that?
There's one moment where Eric is trying to convince Shawn to go out with Kim's cousin, and he's like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, she has the body of Elle McPherson in Cindy Crawford's mind," and I was just
Yeah.
like, "I don't really know what you mean by that, but it sounds sexist, and I'm not here for
That's really good. I liked Sean's reply, which he was like, "Oh, so you haven't seen her?" Like he's like, "Oh, this is
it."
she sounds too good to be true. You haven't seen this girl." and I really like that. I honestly I didn't have one. Like there was everything in
Fair
this
enough.
episode was kind of weird, so I just didn't have one. But I will say that I feel that the lesson the Feeny taught me of this episode was that you should not let what others think about you dictate your behavior, even though they kind of take away from their point. But I still think that that's the ultimate lesson.
Oh, I think the lesson is don't act like a loser, and you get to bang girls from New York.
Oh yeah, there you go. I mean, another very accurate lesson.
Because truthfully, that's kind of what Corey learned. He's like, if I want to go out with girls from New York, I need to be cooler. Like that's what he learned.
Yeah. So, homework. Oh, sorry, grade. Before we do homework, let's do grades. What are you giving this?
Ooh, C plus.
Ah, nice. I was gonna give it a C minus.
All right. Yeah. Again, it's a very forgettable and it's funny, even though the imagery of them in the roller coaster is very memorable, the episode as a whole is very forgettable.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with that. There are lots of clips. We get some new dynamics, and some new, like Eric and Turner have a moment. Um, Eric and Shawn, like we're starting to use people differently, and I like that. But at the same time, it just wasn't that memorable.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Homework.
All right, homework. What do you have?
For my homework for this week, I'm going to recommend a horror film. I'm very into watching all these spooky type of things around Halloween, and one of the movies I'm going to recommend is a movie called The Final Girls. And what's
Uh
really
huh.
interesting about it is that it's a movie that's almost a satire of horror movies in a way where this girl's mother dies and at the beginning of the movie, and her mother used to be an actress that was in one of the uh, kind of a mock of uh, Friday the 13th. So she's an
Uh
adult and then
huh.
she goes to the movie and then somehow her and her friends get sucked into this horror movie. And so they have to use all of the tropes that they know of horror movies to survive. And at the same time, this girl's getting to meet her mother and kind of talk to her and kind of build a relationship with her at the same time. It's just a very interesting movie. And if people who really like horror movies want to see kind of a funny satire of it, I really recommend it. It's called The Final Girls. It came out in 2015. It's Farmiga. I can't really pronounce her name. But yeah, it's really good.
I like it. I mean, you already told me on it, so good, good.
Yeah, yeah, cool.
So we are recording this after the Boy Meets World panel at Comic Con in New York, and I don't know who saw the episode. I did post it on our Twitter, and I hope you were able to watch the entire panel. But what Eric or what Will Friedle did call out when he was on the panel was that he left doing on-screen work because of his anxiety,
Yeah.
and there was this whole write-up about it, about how he admits to having anxiety and like the mental disorder, and he just owned up to it. And he was like, "Yeah, he was like, I felt like, or the article was kind of framed in a way that he should be ashamed about it." And he was like, "No, I did, and I do, and I am who I am." And that was really great. And that reminded me of this piece that I've kind of been holding on to for homework, which was that Taraji P. Henson also talked about mental health and her struggles with it. And she even started a foundation. It's called the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation. And it is to promote mental health awareness in African American students. It's providing scholarships to African American students majoring in mental health. And I just think that that's fantastic because African Americans just really don't talk about mental health in the way that they should. Very often, we refer to church or to Jesus, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes seeking mental health professionals can be very, very helpful. And
When I was growing up, seeking mental health help, therapy, anything like that was considered quote unquote white people stuff.
yeah,
To simply imply that people of color are so oppressed that they don't have the energy or the time or the money to put towards mental health. So it
exactly.
was almost one of those things that's like, well, it was almost like it was looked down upon because it wasn't an option. Like, well, let's just we don't need that. Like, we got more important things to deal with. But obviously mental health plays a bigger part in everything that we deal with. So
Exactly. So that was the homework that I wanted to promote. Check out the Boris Lawrence Henson Foundation. Read up a little bit about that and about Will Friedle's thing, and overall, just take care of yourselves.
yeah, yeah. And you know what? Like, we take care of yourselves, but dream.
Would you
And
say try?
and try.
All right.
Probably most importantly, no, we're not there yet.
You can do good. You can do good.
You could do good. You could do good.
Thank you guys so much for listening to Brehm Meets World. Remember, you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher. Leave us a rating. We always appreciate it. Get back to us. We love your feedback on Instagram and Twitter. And you can find me on at Extra Siege. That's XTRACCEEJ. Tonathy.
You can find me at Braver Me on Instagram, and that's all, folks.
That's all, folks. Later, bros.
Later, bros.